They're gonna hear you. Hey, it's your boy Humble Dad. Welcome back to another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. This is gonna be phenomenal. Why? Because we got several special guests that got opinion on things such as matters as fatherhood, and we're gonna bring them to the stage just like this. Number one, introducing my homie, my mentor, Mr. Lapeef. What up, homie?
Going on? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. Hey, I need you to give me one thing that you appreciate about yourself.
One thing I appreciate myself is that I don't like taking L's. So I'm always about trying to solve the problem. If the issue that's in front of me, I want to try everything possible before I throw the towel in. And I can count on my hands how many times I've thrown the towel in. So that's
That's
one quality about myself.
that's what's up. Welcome to the stage, Miss Shante, not Shante, but
Not
Shante.
Shante. Hi.
What up, lady? Thank you for being here.
No problem.
What's one thing you like about yourself?
I like that I'm a genuinely kind person. No malice intent.
That's what's up. Next to the stage, we got my homie, Dwayne Jones.
Yo,
What's
good to
up?
be here. Good to be here.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
So tell us, what's the one thing you like about yourself?
I say, once I got a task or a goal in front of me, I'm persistent and determined to, like Mr. Lapeef Jr. said, not to take that L. So very persistent, very determined.
That's what's up. Hey, you're gonna have to go, right? It's on you.
Well, you didn't introduce
I know
me.
I'm introducing you too. This is my lady. What you want to go by today? Miss Kendra Siobhan in the building.
Hi.
What's up, lady? What's one thing you like about yourself? I know there's many, but what's the one you're gonna use tonight?
I'm consistent.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a
What
fact.
you see is what you get.
That's what's up. Consistency. Next up, we got Shan. What you got for us, lady? How you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Good to be back on with you all on this evening. One thing about myself, because I know you're going to ask, is I would just say I'm pretty straightforward. Like, what you're going to get the truth. My delivery needs a little work, but you're going to get the truth. So, yeah.
That's what's up. Welcome to the stage, Miss Shay. How you doing? You're on
I'm
mute.
on mute. Hey, everyone.
What's
Um,
good?
the one
Welcome
thing
back.
I like about myself is I'm equally as tough as I am sweet or kind.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And the one that's going that has his mask on for the moment, Mr. Abram. Are you there, Mr. Abram?
Yes, sir.
Hey, tell us what's one thing that you like about yourself.
In this season, I'm glad to be passionate about other people's well-being.
Passionate about other people's well-being. That's what's up. And the thing that I'm introducing myself, I guess, right?
Introduce you?
Yeah, introduce me. You got it?
Okay. Coming to the stage. I'm just playing.
I would say the one thing that I like about myself is that I enjoy being a father. I enjoy being a father because I'm raising the future. You know what I'm saying? And I make mistakes, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking, what is it going to be looking like at the end of the game? What will they be in the end? And so I enjoy being a father, even though, as we'll talk about, sometimes we get frustrated. But the goal is to make them be better than who you are, right? All right, so here we go, man. Like, this is going to be good. As you've seen the thumbnail, you know what I'm saying? But we're going to talk about, first and foremost, the question of the day is, when you hear this, I was talking to somebody and I asked this question, who do kids enjoy school lunch with more, moms or dads? That was a conversation that I was having with someone, and they came up to me and they was like, you should talk about this. I said, that's interesting, but we'll see what my panel think. Who do kids enjoy school lunch with more?
I'll go first. I'm going to say fathers. And the reason why I say fathers is because you typically don't see too many fathers that will actually show up. So when you see a father that appear in the school and setting like that, even the staff, and even the staff, when you're walking around, they're like, hi, hi. It's like they're just so surprised. So to answer your question, I'm going to say fathers right off the bat.
Same. I would say fathers too. Having a daddy is a flex in the schools.
Really? That's what's up. Anybody else?
I would have to agree with that as well for the same reasons that Lapeef mentioned. I mean, even think about when a dad comes home. Generally, we see, even in movies, depicted that your mom is already there. She's already getting the kids ready. And then dad comes home. And it's an entire thing. You know, like we have been waiting on him to show up all day. So I think most definitely, as a school teacher, I would also say dads as well. So yeah.
Anybody gonna say moms? Is everybody saying? Is everybody saying dads? Is anybody gonna say moms?
You kind of expect the moms to be there. Like you see the moms all the time, drop off, pickups. You know, you see moms all the time, but normally when you see the dad, it's like dads are usually working. They're usually not as available as the mom. So when you see your dad in a environment that you normally don't, it's like, it's just more excitement.
Okay, we'll go with that. Shay, you was about to say something?
Yeah, I didn't speak because I was trying to think. I don't know if it's moms or dad, honestly. And my son said his grandparents, so he heard he said his grandparents. So I guess it's neither one of us. So I'm like, okay, well, we're on the same page because I was like, I don't know if it's me or your dad, or I don't know personally, but if I'm thinking objectively, I don't know either. I'm like, I think they equally have more value if the dad is present and if both parents are present. So he said grandparents, so neither, that which is what I was thinking in my head. I'm like,
they do dedicate a whole day to grandparents every year. So
that's a fact. That's cool. Hey, I'm okay with whatever answer that you give. All of these are our perspectives, right? What you got on the Shantae, and then we'll go to Abram.
Well, I just asked my daughter, and she said she wants both of us to show up. I needed her to know there's not a day coming anytime soon that we are going to show. I'm just asking you for the show. Okay. But she said both.
Okay.
But she sees both of us all the time. So it's not like, oh, one parent is not there. We're both there. So she's like, both of y'all.
Okay. So both. All right. That's a bet. Hey, Abram, what you got on it?
I was going to say it's less about who shows up and more about what they bring. And so from that standpoint, it don't matter grandparent, mom, or dad. When I'm watching the kids, because we don't allow kids to have stuff or, have their parents in there. So, which is actually a whole nother topic. But when anybody shows up with something, it's more about what they have rather than who it is, in my case.
Yeah, show with Chick-fil-A.
Hey, listen, that Chick-fil-A bag coming to the school, like when I was a teacher, man, like, listen, kids be like, man, I'm so upset at you. Like, that's when hating really start right there, when they see the Chick-fil-A bag, for sure. All right, appreciate it. All right, so that was like a little icebreaker. You know what I'm saying? I got that from my homie, JR. Keep it real simple, keep it light real quick, right, before we get to the big stuff, right? So when you hear the words, well, let me get a backdrop. I was talking to a guy at the church, and I was like, man, I'm doing this panel discussion. What would you like? What would be something that you would like to hear discussed about on the show? You know what I'm saying? He's like 60, 65, and he doesn't watch it, but me and him have a conversation all the time about just life in general, right? And he said, well, one of the things that he remembered his father doing or saying was that he said, and it was because there was a snowstorm, a winter storm or something like that. And he was walking, and then his son was walking behind him. And the thing that came to mind was, watch your steps, you're being followed. Watch your steps, you're being followed. So when you hear that, what comes to mind? Watch your steps, you're being followed. That's what the dad said that he got from his son walking in his footsteps in the snowstorm.
What comes to mind for me is that you just never know. Well, obviously his son is watching him, and so whatever he does, he has to be mindful that his son is watching him, is looking at him. So his son has the potential of seeing the habits that he already have in place, and the choices he make, the decision he make, the effort that he's putting out into the world. So that's what comes to mind when I think about it.
That's what's
I
up.
agree. Can I just speak? I don't know how this is.
Yeah, we're not gonna necessarily do any orders off the top. You know what I'm saying? If nobody's talking, then I'll be like the teacher and call on people for sure.
I got you.
It's a natural conversation. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with JR. It's like lead by example. Kids will remember half of what you say, but all of what you do. You know, you have to make sure your actions are accordingly. That way your kids can follow that. You'll be amazed at how we make our decisions off of what I don't want to say generational curses, because you can also make good decisions based on what your parents do. So either or, we have to be very cautious of how we move, because our children will more than likely move the same way in the same kind of manner. So I agree with JR said.
Yeah.
What you got on it, Dwayne?
I look at it like as a trailblazer, a pathfinder. You're the one leading the way. And recently we went on vacation, and we're somewhere in Lake Whitney, and the place where we were staying at, and you walk down this path, and then you'll be able to get to the lake. A guy was like, "Hey, you'll be able to take this path, and you'll be able to get over there." But he made mention about some snakes. That's all he had to mention, was something about some snakes. But I remember just walking with the family, and I was at the front and just watching out for anything that looked or resembled any sort of, it's like a snake. And I just look at it like that, because that's for watch your path, you're being followed. So if you're not paying attention to where you're stepping and what you're doing, your movement, if you're not paying attention to that, then the people that are behind you or in your wake can be impacted by that. So you got to watch your steps, watch your actions.
That's what's up. What you got on it, Shan?
When initially you said it, I was kind of similar to Shantae and thought about generational curses. And the wonderful thing about somebody following you is it gives you an opportunity to be groundbreaking. It gives you an opportunity to change someone's trajectory. It could also cause damaging things to happen as well. But to be positive, like I said, it allows us to make positive change in someone else's life. The very things that we're doing can set up or destroy someone's future. So we definitely have to be mindful, not only of what our actions are, before we even get to actions, our thoughts, understanding how our minds are working, what we're thinking, how we're processing, so that when we respond to those thoughts, we are doing it in a light that is going to be positive to someone else who is following behind us.
Yes, sir. So do you think that most fathers kind of, and this would be for the people that haven't answered just yet, do you think that the fathers that are in your circle have operated from a position of what it is that you're saying, Shan? And if so, yeah, if you've seen it, explain how. If you haven't, explain how.
Personally, for me, I think the men that have been presented as father figures in my life have operated from a place of hurt, a place of having baggage, of trauma from their childhood. And to no fault of their own, they just did not know how to process it. The men of older generations, having counseling, speaking to somebody, being able to confide in somebody about how you're doing, how you're feeling, that stigma was not positive. It was negative. Like, we don't, you went to school when your parents grew up, and it's whatever happens in this house stays in this house. And that mindset has caused a lot of trauma for people growing up because we feel afraid to speak out and talk about the things that are really going on with us. And a lot of those things we didn't want to talk about, or your family didn't want to talk about it because it shouldn't have never been happening. Those things were not good things for a child to be brought up in. So for me specifically, I appreciate learning positives from the wrong that I saw, and taking on those lessons as ways of making myself better for my children, and seeking a man who would also be better, a better father for my children than I had the experience of seeing growing up as well.
Go ahead, Shay.
And I think from my point, when I think about my son and his father, and they share the same name, and he shares the same name as his father, right? And I remember I didn't understand that concept because I was like, my son will not be a third, right? And so it was very important to him that he was the third because it's like following a legacy of the men before him, right? And so, once I understood that, so I definitely think that my son's father is the way he is with our son because of the way his father was with him. Like he always had him. They were always, together all the time. And even I hear my son, like I've said before, where he's like, I can't wait till when I'm a dad or when I have my son. Like, you don't even know if you're going to have a son, but he's already thinking about that just because of the way his relationship is with his father. So it's kind of just setting the tone of what fatherhood looks like for generations to come. And his son will be another Vincent the fourth, right? Or whoever. So it just carries on.
That's what's up. Say so Abram, what do you think, man? Like you've been a father for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? So you can definitely add to this because you have what, twins and a daughter, right? Right. You have twins and then you have an older daughter. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what
Uh,
you like to add to the conversation?
I mean, y'all said a lot. I mean, I feel I agree with what everybody's saying. I do know. Um, Once I got into mental health, I began to understand that you are operating from the age of your trauma. And so wherever that trauma happened, that's where you stay stuck. And so when you're dealing with a lot of men and dealing with a lot of pride is usually what's driving a lot of men. And so I have seen both um, the benefits and the failures of what pride has done for my own father himself, who um, I realize now was just, you know, trying to do his best when he was raising me, did a wonderful job. And then as soon as we were older, he just literally jumped off the ship. And so from that standpoint, I began to see that he needed a lot of healing that he did not get an opportunity to receive. And even now, he's so far gone, so caught up in his pride that he can't even see straight, basically. And so, and this is a man of faith for many years. And so I've learned from different aspects, from men who don't claim faith and men who do, that piece that what did you say, Shauna? You were saying about the hurt that men are operating from the place of hurt. Also, just poor advice. You know, most of the guys in here were probably told the same thing. What the purpose of a man was is to pursue, whether it be wealth, whether it be women, stack up, and you know that's where you gain your credibility from. And so you spend your whole entire youth pursuing that and disregarding the thing that has value, which is first the vertical connection, and then from there everything else lines up. And so then you learn that after the fact. And so I feel like that's and then you kind of learn as you go with the raising of the kids, because like the other people were saying, the fathers. My dad told me point blank, I raised you the best that I knew how, and he was abused when he was raised. And so what did he do to us? He abused us. And so from that standpoint, but like the young lady said, thankfully I was able to take some of that pain and turn it around and learn from it, and try not to be a poor example of that. So I agree with what everybody's saying, and you have to mind your behavior every day. If you don't mind your behavior every day and you do it every week or once a month, and you kind of step in, kind of like getting confessional every now and then, In the end, you'll see when they get old enough and start talking back to you and telling you what you taught them, you will see it. And so, whether you want to accept it or not, there's a lot of men, a lot of movies, and a lot of TV shows that showcase that. So,
yeah. When I think about, watch your step, I'm thinking like protection. Whenever you think about a father, the main thing that goes through their mind as dads is, how am I going to protect my family? How am I going to keep them safe? How am I going to take care of them? So they're having to walk a certain way and conduct themselves a certain way because they're watching, and the children are watching, as well as you want to make sure you're not leading them into destruction.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh,
go ahead. You're good. No, go ahead.
There are a lot of men who are not functioning in that space,
right?
And that's the scary part, because we, in our society, we think of, we always make the man bigger than the woman, or even if it's an animal or anything like that. And so we think of that mode all the time, and then we meet some of the monsters who raised the kids and what they did to them and how they destroyed some of the adults we call our friends and our family members that we find out about. They're not all functioning from that playing field. And so that's the scary part, because your intention was to be that protector, but also you have that ability, that role, and then the whole entire experience has been negative. And so having met people who have experienced that and seeing that different outcomes from that experience, actually, I still can't, it compels me big time.
And I guess that's so interesting that you mentioned the protective piece, because I do see that with my son and his father, right? Like, he tries to teach him about that. But then sometimes I feel as a mom, I don't know anything about that, right? So when he's like, you got to watch out for this or watch out, I'm like, I don't think like that. And I tell him, to me, that's negative. I'm like, I don't think about negative stuff. Like, I don't want to think about that. But his dad teaches him, okay, you got to keep your eyes open. You got to do this. You got to do that. And so it's
got to keep your head on the swivel.
Yeah, you got to keep your head on the swivel. Like, he always tells him stuff like that. And I'm like, is that really necessary? But I guess it is from a man's standpoint, because that's what they are supposed to do. And that's why having a father is important, right? Because I would have never thought to tell him, we're in the grocery store. He like, come on, mom, it's dark out here. I would have never thought to just teach him those little things.
Also, always sit with your face facing the door.
The door.
Never get back to the door. Yeah.
And always walk on the inside. You walk on the outside, and the woman walks on the inside. Like, I mean, his dad taught me that when we were married. So it was just like those little tidbits that as a woman, we naturally don't probably even consider, right? But as a man, they are to protect. So those are things that should be taught or passed along. I just never thought about it that way,
It's funny that you all say protection, because I remember growing up and I did not feel that way at all. So I guess kind of what Abram was saying, there really wasn't a lot of feeling like my father figure was there to protect us. I mean, we watched abuse in my home against my mother. It wasn't until I became older and there was a period of going through recovery, and then that protection showed up in ways like, I'm going to show you how to change a tire so you don't get caught on the side of the road, where you would have to find a man to help you. And who knows what he can do, because he can outweigh you. He's stronger than you. He can snatch you up, or I'm going to show you how to check your oil and things like that. But the early part of my childhood, I don't remember feeling that protection, because that person was the source of fear in my home for me. So like I said, kind of what Abram was saying, there are men who are monsters, to some of these children out here. So we need to make sure that, depending on the capacity, every man on here has the capacity of being a positive male role model and influence in a child's life. Because we never know what's actually happening behind closed doors. So Humble Dad, this is just a great platform in general to educate men, but also we don't know who's watching it. You know, there could be somebody younger. Our kids stumble across things all the time, whether we want them to or not. And this is a great way to kind of have them do some reflection as well.
But that's a good point. You just said something that made me think maybe that's why I didn't know to teach him that, right? Because my dad wasn't present. So it's like, so I didn't know what that protection looked like because he wasn't present. So it wasn't anything that I even naturally thought about. So you're right.
I had a segue of a question. I'm gonna come to Shantae. I'm gonna see if this question makes sense. Since you're talking about protection, you brought it up, right? And most of kids are raised by a single mother, right? And the person that is supposed to teach protection is a father, right? So my question would be, how does a man learn that's a part of his duty to be a protector or be a provider? What would you say to that, either Lapeef or Shantae?
Well, that wasn't me who brought up protection, but
I know you didn't bring it up. I'm bringing you into the conversation.
I suppose. I mean, just that's. I mean, the father obviously is the first. Luckily, I've never had this issue because my kids, their father is in their lives, so I don't handle things of that nature. But first, of course, is the father. But secondly, I think experience maybe. Your environment. I mean, there are kids who are homeless and they learn to defend themselves. You know, we're lucky because we live in an environment that kind of protects us a little bit because we don't really have homeless kids walking around. But just think about other countries. Those kids, you learn real fast that something can happen to you. You start to defend yourself. So I just think that the environment, or people who live in different neighborhoods, they start to learn from experience. They see their surroundings. They see what can happen if you let your defenses down. And sometimes it's not necessarily taught by an individual in the household, but just everyday life for some people. So.
Hey, with that, what was the question again?
How can a child or a son learn to be a protector if he doesn't have that in the house? Seems though it's supposed to be learned from the father.
Let's say he has to learn the hard way. That's kind of how I grew up. I had my grandfather in my life when I was young, but he wasn't present like every day. He was more present when I got around, say, high school. But the necessary survival skills that I needed, I had to learn the hard way. So I would fail a lot. And I'm not contradicting what I'm saying, but as a child, you don't know no better. So if you tried something and it didn't work, then you have to try to figure out the best way you could, because my mother was not in a position to teach me how to be a man. I mean, she had her own issues that was going on and she was focused on herself. So I just had to look at the world and just take it on. And for every child, that may not necessarily be a good thing, or they may not overcome those odds like I was able to. So when Shantae was talking, I was also thinking about how we have to take control as parents. We have to understand that the things that we teach and the things that we do, we have to instill that in the youth right now. So we have to start vetting properly as women, because then that's also going to help. We have to practice a little bit of discipline as men, and not putting things in women and creating these families that's just not going to work out. So I think that we have to just take control over like what we doing with ourselves, and the energy, the beings that we putting in there. If we know we're not ready for a family, then don't even put yourself in a situation to have kids. If you know that man's not good, don't put yourself in a position to be able to have that child in the first place. So I just got my thoughts on what I was thinking.
That's some good thoughts that you thinking, bro. That's what's up. You want to say something?
Yeah. Talking about like what Lapeef said, like, yeah, you can do all kinds of prevention, but it still happens. People are still having kids with people who, are not the best mates, or they don't have, the qualities that they need. Yeah, we can say choose better, but what happens when you don't? there still needs to be some ways that you can look at the situation and grow from it, so you don't keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And I think we forget about some natural ways that young men and fellas, again, I am woman, okay, but
Are you finna roar? Are you finna roar?
it was in my head, but it did not come out of my mouth.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we don't need to be growling on the platform today, okay? We need to keep the growls to a minimum. Right. But I put my child in sports. If you are a member of a congregation, there are ways that you can do the big brother, big sister. A lot of these boys, even in school, if your parents can't afford to put you in something, every young man has the ability to see a coach at some point in their lives. And there are men out here, the uncles, in your family dynamic, Uncle Dad, there was the uncle, so it may not be a full-time male figure in your life, but I think at some point our men, our young boys who are going to become men, run into somebody that they can grow from and that they can learn from, and they can teach those protective skills. My son, I'm a single parent now, but when he's around, I need you to open this door. I still put him on the inside because he's little, but at some point he's going to have to walk on the outside of me. Mm-hmm. He's still little, so I don't make him watch the door. But those are things that, we will get to at some point. Interesting story. They have to be at home by themselves sometimes. And he ended up here with his older sister. And he heard a strange noise outside. This is him at 8. He heard a strange noise outside. And when I got home, he was like, Mom, I was like, what's going on? Like, he had that look on his face and that tone in his voice. I'm like, okay, what's happening? What's going on? And he was like, I had the knife. And I was like, you had a knife, son? What are we talking about? So he heard a strange noise. He told his older sister, she's 14. He's 8. He told her to go get in the closet. He went to the kitchen. He got a knife and he went back in the room and got in the closet with her. And I don't know what he thought he was going to do, but using God's strength, he was going to try his best to protect his sister. So I think it's also just a natural inclination that you all have. Mm-hmm. We're the nurturers quite naturally, and you all have that protector. It is part of your DNA. So,
and I do think, we talked about this before, but you brought up a good point, Chin, where sports and other avenues, right? And I think in a previous episode, we discussed how men have to be open to being evaluated by other men. So when you're in a school setting or athletic setting, because even though they have their dad, they still have to be open to being evaluated by another man, right, who is leading them or guiding them in the right way, right? And we had an incident today where my son was upset after his game because of what the coach said. He's like, I ain't playing for this coach anymore. I'm like, no, that's not. He took off his jersey and everything. I'm like, no, that's not what we do here. Like, you have to be open to instruction. That's just what it is. And so any time that we can put them in sports or any, like you said, big brother or things like that, then let's do that. And that's why it's another important reason why it's important that men are in schools, because I know Vinny, this is his second year having a male teacher, and he responds very well to male teachers, right? And so his teacher specifically asked for more boys in his class. That's what he said, because he's like, they're in 5th grade. I want to help, give them the tools so that they can get in preparation for 6th grade, which is middle school, right? So I think having all of those different things are important to where young men can gravitate towards, how do you know how to be protective? How should we present ourselves? Having those different role models in different areas of their life.
Dwayne, what you got on it, bro?
Beautiful conversation, y'all. Beautiful. So Mr. Lapeef was talking about earlier about learning through failing, and I look at it like riding a bike. Like riding a bike, I don't know how many of y'all done fell off a bike, but if you rode a bike, chances are you have fallen off a bike before. And I look at it like if you have somebody there to teach you how to ride a bike, the chances of you falling is limited. It's not going to go. It's not zero. It's just not going to be as maximum as somebody who is just learning on their own. So I look at it from that perspective. You once you have somebody that is able to direct you and teach you, it's a lot easier for you than having to figure it out and do it on your own. But I got to give a shout out. This book right here, Point Man.
Bro, you never read that before. You just got that.
No, I have. This book got some bruises on it. I'm thankful that I ran across this book. We did this little study for our men's group, and it was beautiful because from the jump, the way it laid it out was you're going through the jungle and you're a point man, and you got a group behind you, and this you're in Vietnam, unconventional warfare. You got people in the trees, people underneath the ground. You got booby traps, you got snipers, you have all these things that are unorthodox that are going on around you, and you got people behind you. And as you're traversing through this unknown territory, you have dangers all around you. And it says it's your job as the point man to keep your people safe, and it removes you from that jungle, unconventional guerrilla warfare to the real world that we live in today, where it's like, this is you. Your family is the ones behind you. This unconventional warfare is this world that we live in, and the things that we traverse today. So the way I look at it is, if you are not paying attention to your surroundings, if you're not looking out for the things that can impact your family, I would say first and foremost, the devil himself, you are going to there will be casualties, and it could be in minimal form, it could be in maximum form. And I look at it as the importance, even like in basketball, you're running point guard, you the one coming down the court with the ball, and you got to make the decisions on where to dish the ball, where to pass it. There's many things that are on your shoulders, and I look at it from that standpoint as well, because people think it's just them, but whenever you're in a family situation, it's not just you. You have to worry about your actions, the people behind you, the roles that they play. So if you don't have it, if you don't have those people teaching you, like, it's going to be difficult for you to assume that role, because that's exactly what it is. It's a role, and just like in acting, you play your role, and if you don't have somebody who's done it before, the struggle's just gonna be that much real for you. So I look at it, the importance of paying attention, and if you desire to learn, like what y'all were saying about the coaches, if you desire to learn, you will know where to look. If you desire to do well, you'll see the people who are doing well, and you'll be attracted to that, and those people will then gladly, I'm sure, anybody that I could spit some knowledge to that are willing to listen, I am more than appreciative. Hey, I scratched my knee 10 times. If I could let you skip out on a 10, get you 5 in, get you 2 in, I want to limit that for you. It doesn't matter who you are. And I think as for being able to share our experience and our successes, our failures, we'll be able to then help people behind us as well.
That's what's up, man. Listen, this is good conversation. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all are delaying and talking. I don't know if y'all know that this is a panel, and it's called panel discussion, right? Okay. So I'm going to transition to our next topic, right? Let's see if y'all ready for it. Okay. We haven't got to the meat of the conversation. Shout out to JR. Okay.
Ow.
For sure. Hey, but I want to kind of talk about something a little light. So, growing up, I think it was on Thursdays and Fridays for me and my generation, where there was a lot of TV that we watched, and it was a lot of family shows that showed up, and we would sit down and watch. We had the DVR and stuff like that for the young people that's going to watch later. We had to get it on the first run, not the rerun, really, right? And so I want to talk about TV dads or movie dads, right? The question I typically ask is, which TV dad do you see yourself being most like, right? But I'm gonna open it up to the panel to say, which TV dad or movie dad would you say has would be considered like one of the better role models based on the kind of discussion that we're having thus far? Which TV dad or movie dad would you consider to be like one of the best role models that we could look at?
It's kind of hard for me, man, because I used to watch shows, but I never really paid attention to the father and how he was. It's kind of like a faint memory, but I don't even do too much TV now.
Yeah,
movies. My memory when it comes to things. Somebody can watch a movie over and over again. After I see it the first time, I ain't got to see it again.
that's a fact.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't say people kill. This is good. This is good because at the end of the day, it's still a movie. It's not real, but that's a hard one, man.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of open it up a little bit for the panel so you guys can speak on it. But for me, let me sit on it a little bit because even if I said somebody, I still can't remember in depth how they was as a father. But
for sure, as y'all think, what I'm saying. The reason why I asked because in our family we watch a lot of kind of old school TV shows, and a lot of them are family oriented. And I think that rewatching them on the second go round, I have a totally different perspective on what it is that they was trying to communicate back in the 90s as opposed to what it is that we need today. So there may have been like a movie, you had TV shows like Rock, you had TV shows, of course, like the Cosby's, you had a movie like what was the guy Denzel when he was in the hospital with with his son. I can't remember the name of that movie.
John Q.
Thank you, John Q. I mean, you have a multitude of others, huh?
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood. Oh yeah,
Lawrence Fishburne.
So the reason why I bring that in is because my dad was like that. So he was a good throwing off, if that makes sense. And so he was good for a setting. So I grew up in a neighborhood like that in the east side of Fort Worth, and it was just a lot of. It was. I grew up right when gangs was really hitting Fort Worth, and they were trying to recruit people in the South Six area, and he was just. My dad had no fear, and so I remember an incident where like we were outside playing football across the street. My dad was outside washing his car, and a kid rolled up on us and was like, "I'm gonna come back in a minute. I'm gonna shoot all y'all." And he was just joking. And we were so used to using BB guns and used to playing around, and we was like, "Whatever, dude," And so dude left, and dude came back. Now we didn't know my dad was listening the whole time across the street. And dude came back and was like, "I told you," So he started, doing the same. We about to get ready to get out, and my dad literally just intervened in the situation, took the situation by the horns and just handled it, clowned the dude, walked up to the dude. He was a little older than we were. We were in middle school at the time. He had to be, probably junior in high school. And was trying to push back against my dad, and my dad just didn't back down. Didn't have to grab him. It was just my dad's, words and his stance that he made. And the dude was pissed, but it's kind of like that dog that, you looking at him and you kind of growling, but you go ahead and walk away while you growling. That's what he did. And so after seeing that and constantly seeing my dad step up in ways like that, Lawrence Fishburne comes to mind because he had to be the way that he was in the type of neighborhood that he grew up in, because if he was like Bill Cosby, that wouldn't flow, or like Mr. Rogers, that wouldn't fit in that setting. But from that standpoint, I think that not only do you have to be, what I learned from these different things is I paid attention to the scenarios that they were put in, like Phil for Will Smith, and how they performed in those roles. What their background was, why did they act this way. Lawrence Fishburne was like high on the mountain with information, but he can be grimy with you when he shot at the dude in the door. And so he knew how to fit in the setting that he was in. And so what I look up to is look at your setting and do you like my man was saying to Wayne, I tell my kids all the time, I know how to play my role and I play it well. And a lot of people take that for granted. Well, they know how to play their role, aside from the fact that they were acting, but they know how to play their role and they did it well. And you have to be mindful of the setting that you're in, because you can't approach, like I just said, Mr. Rogers can't come into Boys and Hood neighborhood, and Lawrence Fishburne wouldn't fit in Mr. Rogers' world or Bill Cosby. And so I feel like you not only have to be something, you have to stand for something, but you have to also be aware of what you're standing for and where you're standing, and it has to make sense for where you are.
That's good.
That was good.
So I have two that I'm thinking. One, I would say Anthony Anderson of Blackish, and I don't watch a lot of TV. What was that reaction for?
That dude, I'm gonna let you, Anthony. Listen, that dude. Hey, he's funny, but like that boy is always having to be the person learning.
But that's how fatherhood is sometimes, right? So I really truly believe, although sometimes he's the one that has to be that is learning, that's how fatherhood is sometimes. It's like trial and error, just like motherhood. It's trial and error. You don't have a handbook or a manual that teaches you how to do things correctly, but your intent is good, right? And I think he really tries to steer his kids to learn valuable lessons, even if it's him learning a lesson at the same time. And that happens even in parenting. So I would say him. And then my second one would be Richard Williams and King Richard. What I liked about him in that movie was he had a plan. Now, I'm not saying what he did from, for the other kids or all the extra stuff, right? But in the movie itself, he had a plan, and he did not allow anyone to sway him in his decision making. Like, he already had it mapped out for Venus and Serena Williams since the very beginning, and he didn't let him get beat up. He still protected his girls, even though he got jumped. He still protected his girls and wanted them to be children as they were, becoming into stardom. So I respect him for those decisions that he had to make, because a lot of people thought he was the angry black dad. A lot of people thought he was being irresponsible, or that they would never make it to the levels that they are now. And like he said, Serena, you're going to be the GOAT and the greatest of all times, and Venus, you're going to be one of the best. Like, he already instilled that in them from the very beginning, and played a critical role in why they didn't fold under pressure, why they were able to keep their composure, why, they were still humble, even, in spite of the success. Like, he literally instilled that in them in King Richard. So those are my two picks.
That's what's up. Go ahead, lady.
I can't think of any of them. I don't really like the way fathers are portrayed on TV and in movies. I don't. I grew up with my dad. Like, I say grew up. He's still very much involved daily. Good night, babe.
Good night, lady.
So, like, when I see the dads on TV, they don't reflect what I had in my home. Like, my dad was funny. My dad made sure stuff got done. Like, it wasn't a, like, no, like, he was not like that. He was funny. He spent a lot of time with us. He loved on my mom. Like, no, like, there go my sister. Hey, Dana. But no, like, they make the dads look like they're still trying to figure out, like, bubbling buffoons, and they make the moms like, now and all this other stuff. No, it wasn't like that. Like, I can't relate. I never have. Like, when people were like so upset that they took the Cosby Show off, I was just like, yeah. Like, I just never really cared like that. I had somebody in the house that I liked way more than what was on TV.
I think that's a good point. That was good. But I had two as well. I really did. I saw somebody put in the comments Carl Winslow. And the only reason why I chose him is because of the topics that we've had for tonight. As a father figure on the show, not only did he father his children, but Steve Urkel, like, we never saw his dad. And
you know why his
but he was a father figure.
That's good to say. Hey, go ahead.
Carl control over his household. Steve Urkel just walked up in that house whenever he wanted. He messed up their stuff. He was constantly in Laura's face when Laura, like, he was a stalker. Like, Lord did not have control over his household. I would stand on that rock.
Lord Jesus. That's a good point.
No, perspective.
That's a good point. I'm gonna let you have that one. My second one.
Hold on real quick, Abram. Go ahead, Shane.
Mufasa. Like, he instilled some lessons.
Let's go.
In old Simba. I mean, he was a strong father figure. And even though those lessons didn't come into fruition later on, they were there. You know, he just needed that growing up to do. He had to go out there and stumble and hit his head, but everything that was instilled in him at an early age, it was there, and he could use it when it was time for him to take over as king. And so I know it's fictional, but Mufasa was the bomb.
All of these are kind of fictional.
Mufasa didn't warn Simba about his shady uncle. He knew.
I don't think he knew he was shady.
He didn't tell him stay away from that uncle.
He didn't know. How was he gonna tell him he was shady? He killed him.
Well, Mufasa.
I have family members. They warn you about certain people. Don't let him borrow your car.
Lord have mercy.
Hey, I can't wait till y'all have an in-person conversation.
This gonna be good. He errs on the side of caution like I do. We may be eyeballing everybody.
What you got, Abram?
No, I was just saying it's amazing how you can look at a different perspective of everything. So anything can be taken in, like Mr. Rogers. I'm sure there's a whole lot to that too. But I think the part that I like the most about all the fathers that have been mentioned here is that the good thing is that we know that this. Hopefully, you knew that it was fictional, kind of like how I finally realized that WWF was not real wrestling when I was younger. And so once I realized that, I began to
say, when did you realize it? Just let us know it was. You can tell us it was yesterday.
I was I was in. So one of the guys who, and this is crazy. I don't know how this stuff happens in my life, but one of the guys who was one of the promoters for one of the wrestlers, he wasn't a high level wrestler. He was actually a pastor in Fort Worth, and so I saw him on the show, and then saw him in Fort Worth preaching, and that's why people went to his church. And so I asked my brother. I had to be in the 5th grade, and I was like, "Say, man, ain't that the dude who was on TV?" And I was like, "Yeah, Abram." He's like, "Yeah, this is what he do. That's just a show, man." I'm like, "No, bro, that's for real." So like 5th grade, man, that's when I realized that was fake wrestling. But my point was that the beauty of the shows is that what I think they try to do is depict a piece, and sometimes they get it right, like your lady was saying. I mean, like your lady saying they get it wrong, but like we've been trying to say that there are pieces that you can pull from it and say, you know what, that's inspirational. And it really does matter how you look at it, because the father in what's the movie that just came out last year with the girl whose boyfriend got killed by the police officer, black family, and she went to a private school, The Hate You Give. So the father in The Hate You Give, if y'all seen that, he took on a lot of roles. He gave me a little bit of Lawrence Fishburne, gave me a little bit of Cosby. I mean, like he depicted a lot of pieces, and this is in our modern day time, that you could pull from and say, okay, but there's also some negatives, because he has some negative pieces about him, which we've mentioned earlier in our previous conversation. So I like the fact that in this panel we can discuss both positive and negatives about these fathers, but I really like the fact that there's something to pull from and not go too far, hopefully, in real life, and realize you got to get up every day and you got to live life, and it can't be just a show.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll chime in on this one. Miss Kendra, I'm right there with you. I used to be a huge fan of movies. New release Tuesdays, right after I got out of high school, I was working at Circuit City. And
I worked at Hastings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to new release, get the movies there, and then go to Best Buys, get the movies there, until I realized that I started reading my Bible, and I realized that the things I was seeing on the movies and all that, and things I was reading in my Bible, they were crossing. There was a contradiction there and something, and I disconnected from stuff like that. Like watching movies. So I find it difficult. But then I'll say this: I don't have an ideal father figure from a TV show or a movie, but I did notice something early on though. I noticed like Disney is typically considered like family oriented and all that fun stuff. But then if you look back at it, how many Disney movies were both parents like present like throughout the whole movie? Like I look at stuff like that. There's a lot of lot of their movies that there's either someone missing, somebody died, something along those lines. But you think there's a family aspect to it, but then there's a disconnect of some sort. And we'll put our kids in front of these things and watch it. Now, as for even like the Disney Channel shows for the kids, just like Kendra was saying, it's flip flop. It makes the parents look like bumbling idiots, and then the kids are running the show. And I think that's by design because it's giving a false sense of what a family structure looks like. It's giving a false sense of what the roles that the parents are supposed to play, the mom, the dad. So that's just my assessment. I have a real skeptical view of what Hollywood and these people are trying to push to us as what is real, what is reality.
What a dope take. That's what's up. Did anybody else have something to add? That's how Shantae said. Did anybody else have anything else to add?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Like they always show the mothers as being perfect, and I know like it creates like a psychological like thing inside of you where you feel like, how many women do you know where they feel like they have to be perfect, or it's like you don't feel like you can mess up or anything like that. Like, you don't notice that? Like,
yes,
the mother never messes up. They never get anything wrong. They always saving the day, and it's like, yeah, women are great, but it's like, that's just not always the experience though.
For sure.
Because I know I mess up all the time.
What?
Shantae, what you about to say?
I mean, I don't see that. I see them both. I mean, I guess because of the shows. I'm not really a TV person like that. But when I grew up, I did watch The Cosby Show. That influenced my life a great bit. I also watched, if I compare my life, I would say All of Us. Do y'all remember All of Us when you had the mother and then he was, I guess, remarried. That's kind of like my life. I'll pop up. Hey, y'all. You know All of Us. Remember that? It was like Dwayne and Lisa Ray.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then they had a kid together, and then he got married.
They were co-parenting.
That reminds me of my life now. Mm-hmm. But growing up, I would definitely say The Cosby Show was a big influence for me, especially A Different World, which led into was just spin off from The Cosby Show. But I looked at Claire and Cliff because they were both very powerful individuals, but I felt like they were very compatible with each other. Even though Claire was very mouthy, like most women are, it was a balance, so to speak. I don't think she disrespected him in any type of way. They just worked well together. And to me, and then they fathered, some of the what's the word I'm trying to say? Some of the life lessons they taught their children, I would do that the same. It's still the same inside of my children. So I felt they were the most influential with me growing up. So
that's what's up. That's what's up. That's why it's good to hear different takes, right? That's why it's not necessarily changing people's minds, but it's definitely giving people a new perspective that you never thought about before. And that's why I appreciate how Lapeef did. He does his show. I'm sure there are others that do it, but that's what kind of prompted me to want to do this type of show myself. I'm going to try to see if I can do this share your screen thing. This will be my first time. I did practice it, though, JR, but we're going to see how this works, right? And I want to get y'all thoughts on it. So give me one moment. Y'all can talk among yourself, but give me one moment.
I think I would actually like to know, I know this is a male show in like some other conversation. how the women of these shows actually affected women today, and how men feel about that. Like, that would be
What do you mean? I don't understand that question.
You know, one thing that I find that a lot of people are having conversations about male roles and female roles in relationships. And I wonder how men would feel. You know, we've had the Kevin Samuels era. That's still kind of happening here. But how these shows have affected Black women in how they view relationships and how they come into relationships and marriages. So,
gotcha.
I'm gonna see if this works.
Yeah. See if you.
Let me know if y'all can hear it.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
We're looking at your StreamYard screen. Is that what you wanted to put up there?
No, I wanted to do this screen. Let me go back to the share.
Yeah. So if you go to share, are you want to share the file or the video?
No, I wanted to share this. I wanted to do this link, this Instagram video.
Okay.
Real quick, and I think
you want to send it to me.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Yes.
Oh, I can put it in the back chat real quick. You can get it from there.
Send it to me on IG right quick.
All right. Bet. So what was you trying to say, Shan? You wanted to know what?
How has this space influenced women? I think it's given us a little input on how guys think. You know, I always like to hear the male's perspective, and men have been speaking out. So I think it's been beneficial in that area.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I think, and hopefully the women who watch this show understand better the role of a man as a father in a relationship, and we can learn to take a back seat. Like, we don't have to play that role. There is someone who is fully qualified to do so. And yes, they're going to bump their heads, you know, yes, they're going to fall, yes, but they have it. And we have to learn how to allow our men to lead and to be fathers. So
I think that JR mentioned something very it kind of stood out to me earlier, and he was saying the vetting of the man. I think the only problem there is a lot of times people think that all women are mothers and all men are fathers. And so unfortunately, you get in a situation where you find out that's not the case, because you never know how a person's gonna mother or father a child until they actually become a mother or a father. So that's where the sticky part comes in, because I've seen a lot of that. It's like, oh my God, like, you know, I've seen women who have kids and they find that they have not a nurturing bone in their body and they just don't want any part of it. And I've seen men who may say they may be great men, but then they have a child and it's like, no. They may be great fathers to other kids, but not necessarily great fathers to themselves. So that's where the little tricky part comes in when it comes to that.
I agree 100%. And we discussed that before about is the role of the husband and the father two distinct roles in terms of characteristics and what's needed. But sometimes a guy can be a great husband or a woman can be a great wife, but that doesn't mean that they're a great father or mother.
I'm ready. For sure. Here we go.
Nice and slow, honey. Look at his face. You see nothing but smiles. I love you. Nope. Take care of him. Give me a hug, too. You'll be fine, kiddo. I'll be always by your side. You'll never be alone, okay?
That's it. I want y'all to give me y'all take on what it is that you saw.
Who was that guy? Who was the guy that was talking to him? Oh, that was his father.
That was the bride's father.
The bride's father. I thought that was okay.
They might the bride's.
They might the bride's father. Anyone?
Well, I'll go ahead and go first.
Go ahead, Lapeef. Then we go with Abram.
Hold on, play it again. I think Abram. You want to hear it again? Abram?
Yeah, I didn't hear it. It was too.
All right, no problem. Let me see if it'll
make sure everybody mute up, and then go ahead and play.
Nice and slow, honey. Look at his face. You see nothing but smiles. I love you. No. Take care of him. Give me a hug, too. You'll be fine, kiddo. I'll be always by your side. You'll never be alone, okay?
So I guess I'll go first. I mean, my take is I'm thinking a couple things. I'm thinking maybe he didn't have a father figure, possibly maybe not even have a mother. Maybe he might have been like adopted. I don't know. It just seems strange about that interaction. It looks like the father might have had uh, something to do with vetting him properly for his daughter, and it looked like they might have had a close relationship, closer than the average. Because for him to say that I would never like leave you alone or something like that, I'll always be there. It seems like it's something more to that story. It's looking like he's been holding in a lot, like he's always had this like tough role on the outside, and it was like a real vulnerable moment for him at that time. So that's just how I looked at it.
Anyone else? Ava, you was about to say something. Go ahead.
No, I couldn't hear what he said. I agree with what he said. I mean, that's pretty. I think it was pretty clear cut. Without having the full context of what led up to that, I agree with what Gerard said.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. It like Jared was saying, that tells you that there was a strong relationship between those two men, and I believe that that's important, because even some when we were going through our marriage counseling class, one of the topics was about your your in-laws and that relationship and how that relationship can impact your marriage, because you want to go run back to them, or they want to cling on and hold on to you. But in that, it's like that's a support system. So whenever I see that, it's that's encouraging. Like marriage is a tough thing, and it's one of those things where you need counsel, and counsel is important. So for him to say, "Hey, I'll be there," and I'm not sure as for the backstory. There's a lot of that we don't know, a lot of unknowns. But in it, like having a man, and chances are maybe he was married, but being able to hear someone speak into your life from a perspective and which they've experienced, and they could give you advice into when you run into rough patches. So I appreciate that video, because it's like that relationship between men to men. So we need that support system. So most men think there is independent. We got this. We can do it on our own. But then, sometimes we run into those rough patches and be like, I ran into it the other day where I was like, hey man, it is what it is. And then somebody said to me, does it have to be how it is? And having somebody to provide you input in a situation where you don't have it. So that support system, hey, I'll be there for you. Just to even be a sounding board. That's what's up.
I kind of looked at it as like a adoption. Like, when you get married, you become family with your spouse's family. And that's basically a way of saying, like, you're not just marrying my daughter. You're becoming my son, and I'm going to, hold you down. I'm going to be there for you, as a father figure, and as a friend, and I think that's important. Like, marriage is scary, joining your life with someone is different. You're giving up a part of you to bring somebody else in, and to just have that support during that time. That's why the moment that he said, I love you, that's when he broke down. That's probably something that he needed to hear, or that gave him comfort, in that moment. It wasn't just about him bringing her in. He's gaining a family too.
That's what's up.
I agree with what she's saying. It's crazy because this is usually what I see often in my family, but I guess I could take it for granted, like it's just second nature, so to speak. But basically, what happens is you get married. I mean, ideally, you would get married to someone who has both parents. And for example, in this situation, she's got a father. The father gives the child her to the husband, and now he is also, just like you said, the father. And so along the way, what usually happens is it's like a mentor. Something goes wrong, he's there to mentor him. He's his father. He's been brought into that family. So I guess it's kind of normal for me, but I can see why. I don't know. That video brought it all into perspective, and the fact we're talking about it. But yeah, that's usually what happens. For example, I have an uncle who's married into a family. That father is around my uncle all the time because he lives in that town. He doesn't live in our town anymore. And they're always together. They go golfing together. They're like best friends, but he's his son. So it's kind of like, you're married to my daughter. You're a part of this family. And it's like one big happy family. I can't explain. I mean, that's just how it is. It's like second nature.
No, that's good. I think the part of when I saw it, it resonated with me just on the fact of like, I was going through a situation, I still probably am, with my own father, right? And I had a hard week last week talking about dealing with my father. And then I see this clip where here you have somebody that's not his biological father, but literally said, "You're going to do great." That's what he said to the dude. He said, "You're going to do great." And in order for him, and he's talking about, you're going to do great at taking care of my daughter, right? In order for him to say that, he had to know who this dude was, right? And so one of the two things, whether he was, like JR said, that the father vetted him well, or the dude approached him and said, "Listen, this is what I think about your daughter." You know what I'm saying? So, and he may have said, "Okay, well, let's see what that looks like." With us building our relationship as father and son, right? So, and then I think somebody was saying, maybe he didn't have a father figure. Well, maybe he didn't, but let's say that he did. It's still a big thing for somebody else that is not your biological to affirm you, right? And then not only affirm you, say, "I will still be here no matter what the situation is." And what I resonated with is how Christ is with me, right? Or to any of those that believe in that way, like he adopts us and says that, "Listen, I got you. I'm gonna be here whenever you need me." So it was a couple of different things that kind of resonated to me. Shay, were you about to say something?
I was about to just say what I thought about. Like, my father has passed away, but I thought about what my husband's father told me, and he told me, "You will always be Mrs. McNuggles." Like, and he still says that to this day. Like, "You will always be Mrs. McNuggles." So I took that in the same sense of when that father said that. So even that, he has his grandchild, that relationship is still there, right? Even though we're divorced, that relationship is still there. And even with his parents. So no matter what, we will always have that relationship because we have our own kind of relationship with his father, with his mother. And that's just what it is. It'll never, go away no matter the situation. So you can find comfort in that, to have that type of support when you're going into, a marriage or whatever.
That's what's up. That's good stuff. Does anybody have anything to add before we get into the meat of the conversation?
What?
If you know, then you know. Right. So the conversation that I came, the reason why I came up with this conversation as far as the topic that we're talking about is because, like I said, I was having a hard time last week with some of the things that my father said to me. Mind you, we don't even talk. You know what I mean? It's like we may talk maybe once in a year, maybe once, twice in a year, right? And I know that he's not, I'm gonna just be transparent, right? I know that he's not there for me, but I be wanting him to be. right? Even in my 44 years, I'd be wanting them to be, but I thought that it didn't matter to me, right? And so I had asked him, he had called me, and I was like, what's up? And he was like, you sleep? I said, yeah, I'm asleep. He said, I can call back. I was like, well, you can talk to me now. He said, are you sure? Are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm good. You can talk to me now. So anyway, he says, I asked him the question of, why you don't call me? And he's like, well, I don't be wanting to talk. I said, like, to your son? He said, well, I don't be wanting to talk to nobody, right? And so I continued to have a conversation with him. He was asking me a lot of questions, whatever, and I'm answering the questions out of respect. You know what I'm saying? And so then when I get off the phone, like, I seen that it hit me and how much it hurt me that he said he didn't want to talk to me at all, really. So and he was just, I'm like, so why did he even call me if he don't be wanting to talk to nobody? And it hurt me, right? And so that's why the conversation that I wanted to talk about, why are dads absent, right? You know what I'm saying? Dads are, and so the topic is dads are absent because, like, there's a multitude of reasons, and I don't know why mine necessarily was, but I would say as he didn't really want to be a part of my life based on what the statement that he made, right? But it also could be some trauma that he had. I mean, it could have been the woman that he had the baby with. You know what I'm saying? I don't know necessarily, right? But I would like to hear the panel's talk or thoughts on that. Dads are absent because, and you fill in the blank, and we'll go from
there. Lack of control. You can't control the outcomes. If, like what we talked about earlier, you lived in a chaotic situation, you clinging on for something. And so when you finally get to your adulthood, you hanging on and trying to control or dictate everything that you come in contact with. Just because you were never taught how to treat a woman, you know how to lay down and make a baby. And so if you make children by them, then the rest of the piece you don't worry about because somebody else is always trying to dictate to you or tell you what to do, whether you wanted to or not. And you didn't have good boundaries. And so when you have, and that's just one aspect, that's not everybody. But from a negative aspect, if we're talking about that, a lot of it is the lack of control. And when you feel like you don't have control over something or you don't understand it, you fear it most of the time, and they're afraid of the outcome of what does this bring to my situation, and is it going to take from me like life took from me as a child? And even sometimes people have lost it if they've had consequences brought on them, been in prison and being dictated by somebody else, or just a tough life. If they've got some type of ailment, it's kind of dictated their outcome, or lived in a place where they were mistreated as a man of color. And so you have so many different takes and outlets, because I can talk to a brother that's not a man of color and they have their own perspective as well. But I really say I think it all comes back to feeling like you're not in control of your surroundings. And so when you don't have that, it's easy to kind of shun the things that you have to step up and, like you said, lead somebody in a right way.
That's what's up. Shantae, were you about to say something?
Just trying to hear what he was saying because I couldn't hear. It was very low. I was trying to see what he was trying to say, but and it could be just my computer. I don't know. But I think that it's all individualized. Like it's it's so many different reasons why a parent may not be involved. Like you said, it could be because he married a new woman and that woman is giving him a hard time about his old, his other kids. It could be that he works all the time. It could be that she just doesn't want him around. Let me just tell you this. When I was growing up, my family is very old school. Like my grandparents are very old school. And I remember when I had my son out of wedlock, I was told by my grandmother that he does not sign that birth certificate, that whoever I marry, that's whose child that is. That's what I was told. I was literally told that. Obviously, I have my own mind and I didn't go that route. And I'm glad I didn't, because my son has a great relationship with his father. But some people think that way. You know, some people, I find that women who have family around are more likely to stray away from the father than people who don't. For example, if you have help because your mom is around or help because your grandparents are around, then you're probably going to stray away from the father. But if you have nobody and he's your only help, because everybody needs a sanity break, you're more prone to be like, listen, you need to come get your kids because I need a break, you know? So I think it can be a number of things. And I'll be more than happy to share more things if I don't hear them when everybody else talks.
I'll go ahead and speak on it, but I think that a lot of fathers don't really have an understanding as to they're not educated enough, or either don't understand what it means to be a father. I mean, to be a father takes a lot of sacrifice. I don't think that I've learned truly how much sacrifice you have to do, because at that point you're not even living for yourself anymore. You're living for that child. And I think a lot of fathers are still trying to find themselves. They're still trying to live it up. They're still trying to travel. They're still trying to kick it. But once a child comes into the world, as a father, you have to, like, you play such a huge role from start to finish. Something else that I don't think fathers consider, and I've been considering this a lot lately, is that you want to be able to raise your kids, and once your kids get grown, your kids supposed to take care of you. I mean, that's how I kind of view it now. But if you're not active enough to be able to instill those doings within those children, then you guys won't have a tight relationship. Like, once you get old, you ain't gonna have nobody take care of you, especially if the wife is gone, if she's passed away. So you have to be able to teach your kids a lot so that they better off. That's why you got to be careful when you bring these kids into the world, because they require so much from us as parents. And since we're talking about fathers, particularly the father. So I just think it's just a lot of men don't know how to be adults. They don't know how to handle their responsibilities. They don't know what it all involves when it comes to raising a child.
That's a good take. Shay, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the commenters, I think it was Adam or someone, who said, no one knows how to be a mother or father. Like, you're literally molding yourself into this mother or father figure, right? So you can't read a book. Yeah, you can have an idea if your parents were good parents, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will follow their footsteps, and experience is the best teacher. So I know all of us can say on the call how many mistakes we've made in this parenting world, right? So I think when it comes to them being absent, you really need, I would say, more guidance just to have a better chance. That would increase the probability, right? If you had the mentorship. But if you don't have it, it's like you're getting it out the mud and you'll become an anomaly. So, so it's very possible to do. Most people would say, I don't see how, if it came from them or whatever, but you're literally having to mold yourself into this parental figure. And I will take myself, for instance. I never wanted children, right? So when I had my son, I was like, am I gonna ever love him? Like, those are my first thoughts, right? And I definitely love him. And I think Shantae mentioned it earlier, where some mothers don't have a nurturing bone in their body, right? So it's literally a molding process that has to take place, and getting rid of weight, just a lot of self-reflection about yourself in order to become this person or thing that you don't know, like fatherhood or motherhood, that you know nothing about from experience. And even that first kid may have went through way more than that second kid, and definitely the third or fourth or whoever down the line. The baby kid didn't go through anything, right? So it's like even in that, you can see the trial and error, especially when you have multiples. Like, you're like, oh, I would have did that differently. That first kid is a science project. Like, you writing out a hypothesis and everything. Like, you're figuring it out. And so
teachers call that first period. Teachers call it, all the teachers that know, they call that the first period, because like if you're in first period, you didn't get the best teacher. They practicing on you.
They practicing on you. So yeah, so we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but it's trial and error, and then you're hoping to do things better the next time.
That's what's up. So absent fathers are absent because of what? We have different things to say, but I just want to know your perspective. Go ahead, Shan. We'll go Shan, then Dwayne.
Okay. I guess for me, fathers are absent because they truly lack an understanding of their importance in that role. I also think that it's human nature to want to come back to a place of comfortability, like your homeostasis, right? So if it's a woman who is acting crazy, like I'm just not going to deal with her no more because I need to just be back to what is comfortable for me. The baby mama drama, maybe somebody is dragging things out in court. Quite naturally, like men, y'all generally don't want the confrontation. You just want peace. And so anything that is taking you away from that peace, they just want to come back to a place of what we consider homeostasis. Like, this is just it. So if that means not dealing with certain situations, not being involved because I'm going to just remain in peace, I think that's what it comes down to. But we get to this peace because we have a lack in how important the role is with being a father. And I think women also lack a good understanding, because we wouldn't take men through certain situations or all these things if we really understood their importance. We would be more willing to work through things and die to self so that for the true benefit of children. So that's my take.
That's a phenomenal take, Dwayne. I don't know how you gonna recover from that one, bro.
Oh no, I'm not even going to try to put my little 2 cents in and go away.
Welcome back to Kendra. Go ahead.
No, I like the perspective that y'all are sharing. Me personally, my father was not in my life. I say I grew up in Jamaica. I didn't spend quality time with my father until I was 8, whenever I came to America. And I find it interesting, but I look at it from what mold. Somebody used the word earlier. What mold he came from, and his father was only in his life until he was 10, when his father passed away. My grandfather passed away when my dad was 10, so he didn't get too much time to spend with my dad. But from the time that he got to spend with his father, I saw him pass that on to me. But in addition to that, I saw what deficiencies that void created for him, and in that, I can learn from both sides. I can learn from the goods that whenever he would tell me stories, yeah, I was doing X, Y, Z, and I'm like, man, you would not let me do anything close to that. So he would protect me from certain things, but then he would share the stories of what he experienced. But then he was absent throughout my I would say my teenage years. I went and lived with him, in California, got great experiences from that, but because of the broken home, I didn't get the saturation in which a father can provide. So I can look at my deficiencies and look at it from the standpoint of lacking discipline. Like there needs to be a man that is able to discipline a boy in an appropriate way to break his will. Because sometimes, I won't say sometimes, the Bible says the heart of a child is foolishness. So in that, whenever I was acting foolish, I needed that discipline, to that correction. So when there's that void, it allowed me to be foolish. But my mom, she could handle it. She had a nice follow through on that belt, but it wasn't enough. So I put it like that. But I'd like to share this as well. So a friend of mine from junior high, we had a conversation about a month ago, and he shared something with me, and this was very personal. I did not know this about him, but he shared something about his father. He said he didn't spend much time with his father, and whenever his father passed away, he actually got to go to the funeral. And they talked real good about him. Everybody had good things to say about him, and he would just wonder why. And he was very angry about the situation because he thought his dad didn't want him. He thought his dad didn't desire to be in his life. And he said they went on vacation, and his mom, shared something with him. His mom shared that the day that he was born, his dad was at the hospital, and his mom didn't want the dad to see him because of their relationship. So his perspective on whether or not his dad wanted to be in his life switched like that. And he was in his late 20s. So to find out something where he went all through his life, like, I wasn't wanted. My dad didn't want me. My dad didn't want to be a part of my life. To find out the reason was because of the actions of his mother. And that was a relief for him, but also a hurt in another perspective. So I do see situations where moms can be vindictive because of the relationships in which they have, where they desire to keep that separation. And because of that anger, because of that hate, they think they're doing it for the right reasons. But in turn, they're damaging that child, because what perception are they leaving? What perception are they making? And there are some fathers who do desire to be in their child's lives, but because of that relationship, it creates that void. So like we were talking about earlier, mate selection. We talked about it last week, mate selection. Those are very important things whenever we look to have a family. Who are you having this family with? Because that's very, very, very important.
That's dope. Hey, what you got? It's on you. You gonna bring up the rear. We're gonna end it on what you got to say, lady.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think it's poor self-esteem. Sometimes they don't see their value, or they may not feel like they have anything to add to that child's life. I can only speak from the experience that I have with my child's father not being present. When I met his family and I heard the way his mother spoke to him, and how his dad is in and out of his life, and then like listening to the way that he talked about himself, I'm like, yeah, you don't see where you can bring any value to our daughter's life, and so he just stayed away. And he thought, I think that he thinks that he is doing her a favor, of thinking that he's going to mess her up the way his parents messed him up. But I think that she would have rather had him there and at least seen, at least she would know, versus him just not showing up. I say it all the time when I talk about him. I didn't bash him to my daughter because I kind of had compassion for him, because I saw how his home life was and the abuse that he went through as a kid. And then coming into my family and seeing how my father is with us and how my mom is with us, I think that really affected him to where he didn't feel like he would be a good enough parent for our child. I don't excuse that at all. I don't excuse it, but I kind of understand. I try to explain to my daughter when she has her moments, when she's angry, that he did a bad thing, like the way that he has acted and the way he has treated her through his absence. But I don't really think he's a bad person. I just don't think that he thinks very highly of himself. And I see it in the things that he's done in his life, the way he lives his life, the substances that he puts in his body, like, just how he has treated himself. I don't really see how he could have. I would have hoped that my child would have, helped him, give him some type of catalyst to do something better. But I see the way he treats himself, and I think that he feels like he did her a favor by not being there.
Wow. Go ahead, Shane. You about to say something? Okay, you came off mute. Somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Listen, that's what that means. Just FYI. Dwayne, what you finna say something?
Yeah. I'll chime in on that one because I'll put his name inside the chat because I sure don't know how to pronounce it. Um, uh, about trauma and Miss Kendra, when you were making mention, like it feels like he's doing them a favor by staying away because they don't want to damage them. I think based on what this gentleman had to say about it, he was like the to prevent trauma from your child is the best thing you can do. Just be present. And as for being present, there's so much importance in that because they know like there's a difference than you being there than you being afar. So I think it's a self-esteem does have a lot to do with it. And I'll also say our culture makes it very easy to not do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
not do the right, whether it's pampering the mom with giving welfare, or with the dads it's easier to balance. It makes it very easy not to own up to responsibilities, and being a father is a huge responsibility. And I think it's an honor. Better yet, it's an honor. And I think that there's so much fear that's associated with that because you could fail. I think failure is a part of life, and to run away from that failure is just hey, it hey, like at church we have man up, and a part of that man up is like, hey, you gonna fail. It's a part of it, but there's so much more failure if you're not going to be present, if you're not going to participate. Like, how many shots you gonna miss if you don't take it?
Right.
All of
But he created a traumatic experience for our daughter, for him not being there.
Absolutely.
So it's a horrible cycle.
And
Yep.
y'all bring up a great point about trauma and just really being able to understand trauma responses, like how we respond to situations due to the trauma that we've incurred. Like, and then when you can evaluate what your trauma response is, you can identify what state you're in, like whether that's disassociation, whether that's people pleasing, whether that's being in fight, like really understanding what trauma responses are, identifying what some of the characteristics are to bring it back home to say, okay, I'm stuck in this trauma response. So how do I navigate out of this trauma response so that it don't becomes my reality, right? Because then that brings about other characteristics, and eventually you just disassociate and you're just not there. But disassociation is a trauma response. It's a response to trauma. So if they understood that more, then they could begin to have more grace for themselves and understanding to be able to dig themselves out.
And that's what's up. I want to say thank you all for your perspectives and your time. Listen, I was trying to do my part in getting you out of here on the right time. I cannot stop y'all from continuing your conversations. I mean, I guess I could, but that'd be kind of rude though. And I'm not rude all the time. Okay. All right. So I want to say thank you all. I want to, before y'all get out of here, please kind of tell the people where they can find you. I think most people have their information on the screen. JR, where can they find you, bro?
You can go to my Instagram, which is LaPeefJR, and there's a link right there that take you to the LaPeef network, and I do have the other channel on there, LaPeefJR, as well on there. So
The greatest network ever.
yeah, the greatest network ever. But before I pass the mic, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I love the work that's being done over here. I'm proud of you. It's an honor to be over here and just to witness greatness, man. I'm seeing you grow so fast, just right in front of me. It's amazing to see. And salute to the lady that's in your life as well. He just says nothing but great things about you, and I'm just happy for you guys and happy to see you guys grow together. So much love and much respect to you guys, life, and also to the panel, everybody on the panel. It's good meeting you guys.
That's a bet. Appreciate you. Shantae, where can they find you?
Oh, a Chic Critique, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LaPeef JR. So that's it.
Oh yeah,
I want to, one day, not this conversation, I want to see how your dynamic is, because you said you had a child. I'm assuming Humble Dad is not the dad. I would love to see how that fathering goes as the step parent.
She's grown.
Ask questions like
she's grown.
She's grown.
That's important.
So it's more like a friendship type of, we get along.
Okay, gotcha.
That's what's up. Hey, y'all need to go check out She Critique. It's a really good show. Mature women over there having really good dialogue, just about relationships in life for sure. And then we got Miss Shay. What can they find you at?
At Shay McNuckles. You can find me there. Can you put in the chat what yours was? I was trying to follow everyone.
Oh, Shantae, put yours in the back chat so she want to follow you. All right. And then we got Miss Shan.
Yes, Renew Lens is my Instagram. You can find me there. It's family fun on that one.
Y'all still dancing?
I like to spend time with my kids. They enjoy making TikTok videos.
Listen, I'm not making fun of you.
No, I don't think you do. I didn't take it that way at all. You will find plenty of videos with me and my kiddos, because that's how we connect. They're teenagers, so you got to find other ways to connect with them outside of just sitting and talking. So
I'll be looking forward.
You see a little dance every once in a while.
Yeah, that's what's up. Dwayne, Mr. Anti social media.
Are you on mute, just so you know, Dwayne?
Appreciate that. Yeah. Very, very antisocial on this internet. It's a dangerous place. No, but I appreciate you, Mr. Humble Dad, because I'm sorry, Doctor. Put some respect on your name. No, but I appreciate the platform. It's amazing to draw from the wisdom of the people that you have had conversations, the dads that you've had conversations with. And I even caught some of JR's whenever he was on. So I appreciate the different insight and the perspective that your platform is bringing, because again, it does take a community. And if you're open to grow, being open for other ideas and perspective is, I believe, an optimum way to grow. So I appreciate the platform. So, hey, whenever you invite me here, I'll be here. So that's where you can find me.
Hey, we got Abram, then we got the lady of the hour for me. You know what I'm saying? We go and we'll wrap it up like that. What you want people to get in touch with you? What can they find you, bro?
Well, I'm building my platform. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, so y'all
barely
hear me the whole time?
We can hear you barely, but you know.
I think it just depends on who has headphones on, or the quality of the speaker. Yeah, but for future,
don't use the headphones.
Yeah, don't use the headphones.
So I'm right like Dwayne. I'm not big on it, but I have a nonprofit called Walls Within Incorporated, and so I'm still developing that. And so if you click that in Facebook, it'll pop up, but it doesn't have a lot of content. Because that's something totally different. But no, I'm like Dwayne. My wife gets on there a lot, but for me, I love.
Say it again. What was the company? Say it again.
Hold on, let me get off. Hold on.
Oh, you just type it in the back chat, and then we'll go from there. All right. So we can get everybody home safe.
Can y'all hear me now?
Oh, that's way better.
Go.
Oh my goodness. I said that I'm not big on social media like Dwayne. I said that I have a nonprofit called Walls Within Incorporated that I'm building. If you put that in Facebook, you'll see something on there, a presentation that I did. But as far as content, I'm still developing that. I'm trying to wait till I have time, and that's a lot of it. Is like a power. I thought it was like a power. Cut you off, when you went too long and they pull you off the stage. I was
That's
like,
what I thought it was. I was like, he just BET'd him.
Oh,
yeah.
I was waiting for the freestyle.
Oh no, I had
alrighty.
No, I had the show going. I had to end that other show. So I had to log into the other StreamYard.
That's funny.
I didn't know they came over on here. That's weird.
All right. So you have the nonprofit that you got over on Facebook, right? Is that what you're saying? It hasn't came up just yet. All right, bet.
No, I was saying I haven't had time to invest in it, and so I'm trying to keep stuff in perspective. But I started it last summer, and then I went back to work. And so when I went back to work as a school counselor, I'm trying to keep everything in its right place. And so it's something I do over the summertime. But yeah,
And to you, Miss Kendra Siobhan, what you got going on?
I just want to say some of y'all are horrible at plugging y'all stuff. Like Dwayne, you do photography. Like say I'm a photographer. You can find me here at www.do. What type of nonprofit do you have, Abram? Like, come on. But it's okay. It's my time. Y'all can do it next week. Okay.
Well, I didn't want to mislead anybody. So you asked the question. So I answered.
No worries. It's okay. It's okay.
No, I need to explain it now.
What type of nonprofit?
Explain it. We need to go.
I want to know what type of nonprofit you have. Who you trying to help?
So the whole goal in a nutshell is the reason why it's called Walls Within is because I'm dealing with the walls within individuals. And so because I've been an educator for 18 years, there are so many walls that they bring into or things that they've been built up inside of them. They brought into the school system as they try to develop young minds. They haven't even gotten over the things that they need to be broken from or developed in as they try to develop young people. So my goal is I come in and help the well-being of teachers so that they can be better suited to bring up the next generation. That's the whole goal.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I see there's 9 people on, but only 7 likes. So it's 2 people that need to hit that like button. Okay, so I'm Kendra Siobhan. I own a school here in Dallas, Texas. You can find me at KSBS Studios on Instagram, and you can visit my website at www.ksbsstudios.com. If you have anybody that is interested in learning the artistry of makeup, as well as continuing education for cosmetologists, hit me up. I'm here to help. I'm always looking for models.
That's a bet.
See, that's a plug right there.
That is a plug
that
right
is
there.
A plug.
And then for
shamelessly.
Me, absolutely. And for me, of course, you can find me over there on Lapeef Network, right here at Humble Dad Podcast. And if you want any of the merchandise, just go to humbledad.life and you can pick that up. That's a bet.
T-shirts.
I ain't put my T-shirt on. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I didn't have a clean one. You know what I'm saying. I'm just gonna be 100 with you. All right. Well, until next time, we out here. Appreciate y'all. Deuces.
All right, no doubt. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate y'all. Y'all stay up.
Take it easy.
Deuces.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
You ain't never gonna let her back on.
Listen, you're still live. So do you want to say something else? Because you still live.
Oh.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Till next time. We out here.